Aloha, welcome. Everyone will need, can you zoom out so you can see this? 2 blankets and 2 blocks. Hopefully that is a nice internal signal that you'll be relaxing during this class. More props usually means you get to release more tension. Today's class is going to focus on releasing tension so that we can work to calm the mind and start to access a deeper experience of the capital S self that we talk about in yoga, but it's so special when we actually get to experience it. So to begin, you can zoom out so you can see the blankets. One blanket will be going underneath your bottom rib, and I'll tell you how to find that in a moment, all the way beyond your hips. And so it can be shorter than this, but you don't want it to be very high. Mine is about thick once it's folded. So that might even be a little bit high. We want it to be really, really gentle. And then the other blanket, this is my new favorite thing. It's going to be a support system for your arms. And so I will demo it really quickly, but don't lay down yet because I'm going to tell you how to. Second blanket is going to go over your belly, which is very nice and soothing and comforting. But the wonderful part is it's going to cradle your arms. So your elbows are going to be on the blanket, your forearms are going to be on the blanket, and that's going to just help soften the arms as you rest in a moment. So have your second blanket off to the side, and then turn to the right and sit on the end of your first blanket that's about 2 inches thick. Hopefully this is the most thinking that you have to do in the whole class. And special welcome to Bob. Hi, Bob. Bob's doing yoga with us today. You all know Bob. And so I'm going to say some special things to make sure Bob feels good in his body because he hasn't done yoga for a long time. And we always want to feel better after yoga than how we felt when we started. Okay, so to find your bottom rib, once you're seated on your blanket, start to feel your rib cage in the front. Okay, and actually this is a good exercise to do in general. Just start to push on the bottom rib and even feel the tissue that connects to the bottom rib. See if you can allow your fingertips to touch underneath there a little bit, not being forceful. See if you can sit up tall while you do this and breathe fully. And then walk the hands around. So you're tracing the bottom of the rib cage. And your shoulder mobility might make it a little more challenging to feel the back. That's okay. And as the fingertips come around, you might start to notice the floating ribs that go underneath the rib cage and follow them all the way to the spine. And it's okay if you don't know exactly the bottom floating rib, but where you're touching is going to be on your blanket. And this is really important so that the back doesn't arch at the thoracolumbar junction. So keep your fingers where they are and scooch back until you can place the top of the blanket where the fingers are. So that place is still supported by the blanket. And then the upper rib cage is off of the blanket. So we're in a really gentle back bend. If you have a thicker blanket than I do and your back bend feels intense, take the time to unroll your blanket a little bit. It should feel just a step above lying on the ground. And then bend the knees, soles of feet to the earth. Let the feet come wide. Knock the knees in. Let the low back soften. And then take your other blanket, place it over the belly. Lower it a little bit. And then bend the elbows, placing them on the floor beside you, and gently rest the hands and forearms on the blanket. And so, yeah, exactly. That was great, Kayla. So you want to make sure the elbows are bent and the arms and or the hands and forearms are supported by your blanket. And it should feel very soothing and relaxing if you're doing it right. And now close the eyes if that feels comfortable. And let the breath start to slow down and smooth out. And the goal of our practice is to prepare for meditation. That's why yoga was developed thousands of years ago. And so to do this, every breath, every movement should be taking us in a direction of feeling calm and supported. If we're listening and feeling, we'll know exactly what to do in each moment. And sometimes it almost feels like the body starts to dissolve. And you can tune into something so much more spacious. And it's only possible if we start to ungrip the control we have over the environment around us, and what we want and don't want, and even what we think our body should be able to do or should look like. And that's not what this practice is about. So we'll take some time to first connect with our breath really deeply. Starting to notice that gentle shift that can occur when we relax and go inside. And as we've already taken several relaxed breaths here, you might notice areas of the body that are holding tension. And sometimes that just means an area that you have a lot of awareness of, like you're like, ooh, I keep feeling the back of my neck or the tops of my shoulders. And if there's a place like that for you, try to wiggle around a little bit. Try to lengthen the back of the neck or just the shoulders. And the support system is ever so gently opening the heart. And it can sometimes bring a lot of extra emphasis to the front of the body. And so see if you can bring extra awareness to the back of the body. The shoulders connecting to the earth, the heaviness of the head. That interesting point where the blanket connects with the ribs, so you're supported and the heart can open. Now as you breathe, try to find space in the back of the body. Let the breath slow down and smooth out, and I invite you to attach the mantra Om Namah Shivaya to each breath. Each inhale, Om Namah Shivaya. Each exhale, Om Namah Shivaya. And everyone that's here live knows all about that mantra. But just in case someone's watching in the future, Om Namah Shivaya is a powerful vibration that helps take you beyond the layers of the physical body so that you can have a direct experience of the inner self. And so each repetition, imagine that the body is softening. Om Namah Shivaya. Each repetition, let your plans for the rest of the day or your worries about what's already happened today, let those things start to fade. Om Namah Shivaya. And set the intention at the heart center that everything we do in class today will help you move closer to the inner self, to an experience of the inner self. So that means being present and enjoying every movement, every moment. And we'll just take one more minute of breath and mantra. It's about 5 breaths. Enjoy one last breath of stillness. And then gently begin folding up the blanket that's on top of you. You can place it off to the side so it's out of your way. And then reach the fingertips towards the heels. Gently push into the feet to lift the hips away from the other blanket and slide that out of the way as well, but keep the body gently lifted because this moment is really lovely. Gently start to release one vertebra at a time and notice how much awareness you have of the spine as it releases back to the earth, and then that moment when the pelvis sets down and you can relax once again. The knees can either knock in like they were before, or the legs can extend as long as that's comfortable. And notice any sense of feeling extra grounded, extra connected after that very gentle heart opener. Imagine yourself just landing in the footprint of your body, feeling very clear and grounded. And start to walk the feet in towards the hips, bending the knees. Find a place where the knees feel supported. And if you're following along with the musical playlist, hit play on the first track and make sure it's set to loop the first track. And Satyam's going to put the link in the chat box, Bob, just in case you didn't see it in the email. From here, gently start to press down into the feet just to unweight the pelvis, but don't worry about lifting very high. And then set the pelvis back down. And start to sync this with your breath so that the exhale lifts you and the inhale sets you back down. And take several pulses on your own, starting to notice the sensation in the vertebra of the spine as the pelvis lifts and lowers. Maybe there's even extra sensitivity at that spot where the blanket was pressing before. And then if you'd like to push a little more into the shoulders and the hands instead of just the feet, you're welcome to, but the goal is just to start floating through space and let go of any sense of how high the hips should lift or what it should feel like. See if you can repeat the mantra as the hips lift and you exhale, Om Namah Shivaya. And the same as you inhale and set the hips down. We'll take one more and we'll pause in our gentle bridge pose and make sure you can continue to breathe as you hold this position. There's a tendency to hold the breath sometimes. You can always back out if you notice yourself doing that. And then gently drape the spine down one vertebra at a time. Bring the right knee into the chest, hands around the forearm. Gently squeeze the thigh into the belly and then start to lift the rib cage into the thigh. Let the head float, but the neck and shoulders are really soft. The work comes from your center. And then inhale, release the head back down. Each exhale, Om Namah Shivaya, and lift your own pace here. Each inhale, release. And the knee can float forward, slightly point the toe. Exhale, flex the foot, squeeze and lift. Inhale, release everything down, point the toe, let the knee glide forward. Take a few more on your own. And it's okay if you don't do it exactly how I'm doing it, as long as it feels enjoyable. The next time you release back down, start to press into the left foot just like you did in bridge pose, and notice how the hips get a little lighter. It's okay if they don't leave the ground. If it feels comfortable, you can play with a single leg bridge or just kick the left foot down into the earth to activate the muscles in that leg, whichever feels best. And then set the hips back down. Satyam just yawned, so I know that we're doing a good job relaxing. Good job, Satyam. Open the right arm off to the side and then place the left hand to the outside of the right leg. Squeeze hand and leg together to strengthen through the right side, and then gently point your knees to the left. A really gentle twist, but there's strength on the right side of the body. Take a breath. And then slowly let the knees win the tug of war, so the right arm starts to lift and you gently roll onto the left side of the body. Release the right arm on top of the left and kick the right leg straight for a little stretch on the outside of the right leg. Reach the right arm forward, up overhead, and then gently use the right arm reaching back to peel the heart open. Thanks. Pause for a moment. You can flex and point the right foot. Option to gaze to the right as long as that feels okay on the neck. And then start to reach the arms to a T. Gently point the right foot down. And notice how the right hip can slowly make its way to the mat as the right foot points down towards the short edge of the mat. Allow the left knee to point up and pause for a moment. Back at center. And then drag the right foot in to meet the left. Reach the hands towards the feet. Take a gentle bridge pose. Exhaling to lift. Repeat your mantra. And then drape the spine back down, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So now the left knee pulls in, hand around the thigh. Each exhale will lift the body towards the thigh, no strain in the neck. And then inhale to set everything down and let the knee push forward just a little bit into the hands. Take a couple of those, getting used to the movement, and then we'll add on the foot. This feels really good. Flex the left foot as you squeeze and lift. And then point the left toes as you release down and the knee glides forward. Take a few pulses like this. And don't worry about lifting very high, especially if it doesn't feel good in the neck and shoulders. Be more interested in squeezing the body towards the thigh. And the next time you lower, pause there and start to push into the right foot. Notice how pushing down the right foot into the earth activates the right leg. Maybe the hips lift. Single leg bridge is challenging, so it's fine if the hips stay down. You just want to strengthen that leg naturally. And then set the hips back down. Now the right hand comes to the outside of the left leg. The left arm comes to a T. Squeeze the hand and the leg together and notice how the outside of the leg turns on. Take a breath. This is really gentle, never forceful. Slowly start to point the knees to the right. Any amount that feels easy and supported. Left shoulder stays anchored. Take a breath. And then slowly let the trajectory of the knees continue until you roll onto your right side and the hands stack pointed away from me. Kick out through the left leg, flex the left foot if that feels okay, and then start to circle the left arm up overhead. And as it starts to come behind you, allow the heart to open so the movement isn't just happening in the shoulder, but it's in the body. Pause anywhere that's comfortable. If it feels intense, reach the arm overhead instead of being fully open, so it's just not as big of a twist. Option to gaze to the left. Make sure you can breathe. That's always going to be our gauge of the nervous system. Smooth, even, steady breaths. Smooth, even, steady mind. Point the left toes down and slowly let the left hip come back to the mat. Pause with the left leg extended. Let the hip anchor down into the mat and just take one breath. And then drag the left heel up to meet the right foot. Reach the hands towards the heels and take one last bridge pose with as minimal effort as possible. Imagine, I was going to say, okay, you have to hold this for an hour. So try to be as skillful and easy as possible. And don't worry, you don't have to do that, but can you do less? And then gently set the spine back down. That was a quick hour. You did such a good job. Grab behind the thighs and gently start to rock and roll forward. If that's not comfortable, make your way up to seated, however is comfortable. But if it feels good, enjoy the massage on the spine, and we'll meet at seated. Bring the soles of the feet to the earth. Grab behind the legs and pause for a moment. How you doing, Bob? Good, okay. Pause for a moment and notice what it feels like to be upright. Start to breathe into the back of the rib cage and notice any elongation through the spine. Notice the quality of the breath. And then release the hands behind you and start to shift the weight from hand to hand. starting to wake up the support on the shoulders, and everything should feel really nice and easy here. Bend the elbows in towards the body so the hands point out, and just gently teeter-totter from side to side. Change the direction of the hands, move where the hands are, and notice how that changes the sensations in the chest, in the muscles underneath the shoulder blades. Let the hands be really relaxed and soft here so there's no strain in the wrists. And then allow the knees to start to point to the left and take a nice easy twist to the left. Take a few breaths massaging through the spine. And then bend the left elbow. Bring a little extra weight on the left pinky side and take a couple of little springs with the left arm. Imagine the left arm's like an accordion, and it compresses and then expands really evenly. And the next time you come up, lift both arms. Lift the knees and allow the knees to float all the way over to the other side and gently twist in the other direction. Take a couple of breaths at stillness. And then start to play with the right hand now, bringing the weight into the right pinky, bending the right elbow. Make sure the elbow's coming in towards the body. See if you can start to feel the pathway up the pinky side of the hand to the back of the arm, the back of the shoulder. That's often what we need, where we need a little more awareness. Take a couple of bounces. And then lift through center, reaching both arms up. Take a breath at center and see how much you can soften through the shoulders so that this feels really effortless. So bend the elbows into a big bowl. Feel the shoulders just landing on the rib cage. Nice. And then cross the right foot in front of the left. Plant the left hand behind you. We'll be landing in a tabletop position, and so if you're new to this transition, you can meet us in table if this doesn't feel comfortable for you. But slowly lower the right hand so that the torso swivels to your left, pivoting you to table. Awesome. Way to go, Bob made it. Awesome, yes. So from tabletop, paw out the hands, shifting the weight from hand to hand. And then slowly shift the weight into the left hand and reach the right arm up, spiraling through the spine. Inhale into the back of the heart. Start to feed the finger between other arm and leg for thread the needle. And then exhale, push into the bottom arm, spiraling open. Take a couple of these, and you can play with where the hips are here. I enjoy sending my hips back towards my heels as I thread the needle, and then sending my hips forward as I twist open. And don't worry about going very far. Just try to feel the sense of the spine gently rotating. This used to be so hard for me and so uncomfortable. The magic of yoga is now it's not, but if it's feeling that way for you, try to do less and find more softness. The next time you send the hips back and feed the arm through, gently release the shoulder down, release the right ear down. Option to flatten the feet, reach the left arm forward, take a couple of breaths. If that doesn't feel good, just stay upright instead. And then slide the left hand in front of the face, push down into the left hand, slowly floating back up. Bring both hands underneath you, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So now the weight shifts to the right, soft right hand, float the left arm up, and then feed the left arm through. Take a couple of pulses. There's no right or wrong with the breath. I like to exhale into the twist so my ribs and hips feel connected to my core as I spiral. And then if you want to add the hip flexion, the hips can go back as the arm threads through and go forward as the arm lifts. But or do whatever feels good. Maybe your body will invent something even better. And the next time the arm feeds through, gently imagine your body like a deflating raft, just evenly softening, letting you melt towards the floor. Make any adjustments with the right arm that feels as comfortable as possible, and breathe into the back of the heart. Imagine tension just melting out of the back of the heart and exiting the body. Slide the right hand in front of the face. Gently push into the right hand. Bring the left hand under the left shoulder. And then push back so you're seated on your heels. Take a moment to find your blocks and place them in front of you about where your hands were in tabletop. As long as you're finding things, feel free to find a drink of water. And if you're following along with the playlist, go to the second track. Okay. Float onto the knees. If you've got sensitive knees, you can use one of your blankets underneath the knees so those joints feel more supported. Flatten the tops of the feet. Bring the left hand to the back of the left hand to the bottom of the ribs where that blanket was when you're on your back. And the right hand to the top of the pelvis or the low belly, however you want to think of it. Let the pelvis tip forward and back a couple of times and notice what happens to the hands. And try to find a place where the hands feel like they're parallel to one another. And so there's a sense of the right hand pulling up and the left hand almost dragging down slightly. Once you've found that place, pause and breathe and try to relax. This is neutral, yet it takes a lot to maintain neutral. I feel my deep core muscles engaging. Anyone else feel that? Yeah, nice. And start to bend the knees, leaning back, and then float forward. Each exhale, bend the knees, float back, maintaining this neutral. Nice, Bob. And then come back up. Move at your own pace and try not to go very far. In fact, try to do less. And notice the sensation in the fronts of the thighs and the pushing down of the feet. Make sure you can breathe. That's the most important thing. And the next time you float up, step the right foot forward. And we'll do the same thing with just one leg. So it's actually harder. So start to bend the left knee, floating back. I go way less because you've got only one half of your body able to support the whole torso. Just one of your psoas muscles doing all the work now. Nice. And again, try not to go back very far, but let the whole body stay in one line. And the next time you lean back, pause there and start to heel toe the right foot over to the right, setting up for our modified Parigasana. I'm going to turn to the side just so you can see the angle of the right foot. And so same idea here. You can actually, for the first round, keep your hands where they are. Lean back so the left side of the body activates, and then play with bending into the right knee just a little bit, and then come out of it. And do this a couple times on your own, exhaling to lean back and then bend the knee. And inhale to come back to center. And each time you start to bend the right knee, notice a sense of what's supporting you. Push down into the right heel. Make sure the knee feels really spacious. And start to notice what's waking up on the back of the right leg, what's staying awake in the left hip. The next time you bend the knee, pause there and lift both arms up and to the right. Release the right hand to the right thigh and gently push down into the left knee, letting the whole left side lengthen into a gentle side bend. Breathe into the left side of the rib cage. And then push into the right foot to come back up to neutral. Walk the right foot back to where it came from and release the hands onto the blocks. You might want to try different heights for the blocks so that this feels effortless, right? Because we're working with the body. We're not creating any tension in the body. Start to make gentle circles with the hips. And stay really interested in that right heel. Try to feel the muscles coming up the right heel into the right calf, to the back of the right thigh, the hamstrings, and connecting to the right sit bone. So as the pelvis moves, maybe you can even feel a sense of support and stability in the base of the pelvis where the sit bone connects to the hamstring. And then point the right toes and gently make a circle around the body with the right leg, trying to keep the whole body straight and level as only the right leg moves, and then draws in to meet the left. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So flatten the feet, come up to kneeling. You can use the hands if that was helpful. This time the arms can, I'll give some different arm cues. So if you feel like you need that feedback, use the hands. Otherwise, as you start to bend the knees and float back, hover the arms towards the horizon, and then inhale back to center. Exhale to float and hover. Remember, everything from knees to crown of head is staying flat, and only the knees bend, and it might just be a couple of degrees. I would rather you feel very stable and supported. And the next time you float up, step the left foot forward. Same thing. You can use your hands on the body or take these little hovers. And then the next time you lean back, feel the strength in the right side of the body and start to heel toe the left foot over to the side. And again, I'll turn just so you can see this part. It doesn't matter how far the left foot goes. You just want to feel really supported underneath the left sit bone and in the left knee. And then start to hinge back just like we did before, but from that back space where the core engages, bend into the left knee just a little bit. And then inhale to float out. And take a few of those explorations, turning on the right side of the body, and then bending the left knee and feeling what starts to turn on in the back of the left hip, the back of the left thigh. And then start to notice the small semicircles the hips are making as they float back and then to the left. And then back to center, back, left, center. Just waking up more and more support. Make sure that left knee is always feeling spacious. If it doesn't feel spacious, try inching the left foot over to the left a little bit. And then walk the foot back to where it came from, to the left side of the blocks. Release the hands down to the blocks, whatever height feels best for you. And then start to circle the hips, but more interestingly, anchor the left heel. And start to notice how circling the hips changes the sensation in the heel and the muscles that connect the heel to the hips. And then point the left foot And shift the weight into the hands so you're really stable here. Draw a circle around the body with the left leg. And then bring it in so you're back in tabletop. Lower your blocks to medium or low and bring the elbows down onto the blocks. The blocks are less stable than the mat because you can't use your hands, right? Your hands are floating off of the blocks. Draw some figure eights with the shoulders. So you can imagine there's an infinity sign underneath you and you're just tracing it with the heart. And notice the different sensations waking up on the outside of the shoulder, the top of the shoulder, the inside, as you trace the shape and then go the opposite direction. And then float the hands back onto the blocks, whatever height they're at, should be just fine. Find your neutral spine. So that's when your hand was on your belly and your low back and they became parallel. So just visualize that happening. Tops of feet are flat. Start to glide the left foot straight back. It's still on the ground and try not to move anything else in the body as the foot glides back. And take a couple of these and see how still the whole body can be while still breathing. And only the foot glides. It actually takes a lot of control. Start to feel what wakes up in the hip and the deep core when you control that anti-rotational movement. The next time the leg extends, pause there, shift weight into the left hand, reach the right arm forward, up, and back, and just take a very gentle twist. Continuing to breathe, place the right hand down, tuck the toes under, and push into the hands to lift the hips up and back into a down dog prep. The legs will naturally be staggered. Shift the weight forward, gently lowering the right knee down, bring the left knee to meet it, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So feet flat, glide the right foot back. I like to do that on an exhale, and then inhale to bring it back in. Take several more on your own, seeing how still you can be as only the leg moves and the spine and the pelvis and the shoulders all stay in one place. It takes a lot of focus. You have to be completely present. Try attaching the mantra to the breath. The next time the leg extends, shift weight into the right hand, left hand circles up and back. Doesn't have to go far. We don't need to create resistance. That defeats the purpose. And then let the circling continue. Tuck the toes under, both hands on blocks. Gently push into the hands, sending the hips up and back. Let the back of the legs lengthen. Wag the tail a little bit. This time, bend the knees really, really, really deeply. And gently start to walk or tiptoe the feet towards the hands, keeping that deep knee bend so the low back is soft. If this doesn't feel good, find your way into any forward fold. Lift the block to a higher height. That's totally fine. Let's all bend the knees so deeply that the belly can rest on the thighs. And then see if it's comfortable to release the head so the back of the neck lengthens. Shift from side to side, and then send the weight back into the heels. Bring the hands to the thighs. Push into the hands to create length in the spine. Breathe into the back of the ribs. And then slowly let the hips get heavy, pulling the pelvis to neutral. Stack one vertebra at a time, continuing to breathe. No strain anywhere. From Tadasana, just like we did at the very beginning of class, have a moment of letting yourself just land in your body, in your footprints. We'll take a couple of breaths with the mantra. Now as you repeat the mantra, just imagine the physical form getting lighter and lighter until you're just energy. And then turn to face me, unless your mat isn't parallel to mine, in which case turn towards the wide edge of the mat. Take your blocks and place them in front of you at the center of the mat. And here's our infinity sign again. Start to trace an invisible infinity sign that's like written on the ceiling with the hips. And as you do that, notice the weight shifting on the heels. It conveniently ends up that you circle the weight around each heel when you do that. Then go the opposite direction. We're going to be doing some hip opening. And a lot of the most important muscles for hip opening are the ones that we don't usually use. On the back of the body, the outside of the hips. And so our goal, like this infinity sign, is to wake up all of that musculature. Doesn't matter how deep we go in these poses. Instead, we want to feel really supported. And it should feel easy, right? Like I've been cueing, like the body just evaporates, you're just energy. So if you feel tension, back out, breathe more. Surrender. Doesn't matter how far you go. Let's start to shift the weight from foot to foot, bending the knees, keeping the weight in the heels, and see if, as you go from foot to foot, if you can actually lift that unweighted foot. Yeah, great job, everybody. And then allow the toes to start to turn out, but make sure that doesn't create any compression in the knees. And then pause wherever you are and look at the angle of the thighs. It should be the same as the angle of the feet. If the thighs are pointed more in, then turn the feet in a little bit. And then make one infinity sign on the heels, just like you did before. And now continuing with the infinity sign, try walking the feet out a little further without losing that sense of mobility. If you feel stiff, it means you've gone too far. So that's how you can experiment there. So this is goddess pose. Pause for a moment, shift the weight into the heels, arms to T. Use an exhale to drag the heels gently together. Push down into an imaginary gust of wind to float weightlessly. And then as you inhale, you can gently soften. Take a couple of pulses like this. Again, trying to feel what wakes up on the back of the thighs, almost like a invisible, you're riding an invisible dragon, and the saddle gently supports you, letting you feel weightless. And the next time the hips lower, pause there for a moment. Make sure you can move from side to side. That's our test, that we haven't gone too far. And then gently turn the feet forward. Bring the hands to the thighs and melt the body forward. The hands can slide forward any amount. If the blocks feel close enough, bring your hands to your blocks. That might mean bending the knees a little more. And start to trace that infinity sign with the pelvis here. Become a little extra aware of the outsides of the feet. Anchor the outsides of the feet down. Let the inner leg line be light. And make sure the inside of the knee feels really spacious. Shift the weight into the left hand. Bend the left knee. Reach the right hand forward, up and back. Take a couple of circles. And then bring the right hand back down. Shift the weight over into the right foot. Bend the right knee extra. And then circle the left arm forward, up, and back a couple of times. And bring the left hand back to the block. Bend both knees. Push out with the feet. And notice how the legs extend. And then push in with the feet, and notice how the spine naturally rounds. Shift the weight back, bring the hands to the thighs, and slowly roll up one vertebra at a time. Take your time, make sure you can breathe. Okay, we're going to add on to that a little bit. So we'll start with our goddess pose, toes out, knees out. Take a couple of floats, letting this be as gentle as possible. You don't want to feel feedback in the joints, especially the knees. It means maybe you've gone a little too far and the joint's not feeling supported. So if that's the case, take a shorter stance, bring more weight into the heels, think more up. Great adjustment, Bob. Yeah, let it feel supported. And then turn the feet forward, either hands on the thighs or hands straight to the blocks, whatever feels best for you. Bend the right knee, circle the right arm up and back. And then this time, grab onto the right block, lift the left block, push down into the right block so the right side of the body feels really strong. Point the feet over to the left, gently lowering the right knee down. And then lift both blocks, just taking a moment for the hips to close and the body to come to center. If your blocks are heavy and this isn't comfortable, it's fine to put them down at any point. And then lower the right block, lower the left block back to where you came from. We're going to do that a couple of times. So pivot the feet to the right, push down, bend the right knee, circle the right arm up, and then place the right hand down, pivot the feet, lift the left block, lift the right block. And so once you've got the hang of it, you can move at your own pace. We'll be going from our straddle with the right knee bent, twisting to the right, lowering down and pivoting to our lunge. And move really slowly. Make sure everything feels supported. If this feels challenging or uncomfortable, just stay in one for a couple of breaths and then go to the other for a couple of breaths, and you don't have to go back and forth. Once you've got the hang of it, if you want a little bit more from the lunge, lower the left hand and let the right side of the body open a little bit more. And we'll all meet in the lunge. Take your time getting there. If you haven't already tried it, lower the left hand down, fingertips to the block, push down into the right knee, letting the whole right side of the body lengthen and reach. I'll pivot just so you can see the angle of my body. It's just side bend to the right. And then push down into the front foot, lifting both arms up. Place the blocks in between the inside of the left foot and start to kick into the left heel, straightening the left leg, and then bend the left knee. Do this a couple of times. Give yourself permission to walk the left foot forward or over to the left until you find a spot that feels most comfortable to let the leg extend. And the next time the knee bends, pause there. Bring extra weight into the hands so there's not too much pressure in the front foot. And slowly start to externally rotate the left hip so the knee opens slightly off to the side and the foot sickles under so the sole of the foot lifts, and then close. And do that a couple of times. And the next time the hip opens, kick into the heel, sending the hips back. Let the toes come back to neutral. And then bend the knee, melting the hips forward, coming to your lunge. And we'll do that a few times. So external rotation, and then kick into the heel for hurdler, and then roll forward to a soft lunge. And then see how smooth you can start to make those motions. And the goal is never to go deeper or further. We're really just trying to relax any tension in the body. Think of it like a massage. The next time you're in the lunge, pause there because we've got to do the whole thing on the other side. So lift the back knee, pivot the feet to the right, back to your straddle forward fold, and then shift the weight back into the heels, walk the hands up the legs, slowly roll up and pause for a moment at the top. And then feet out, toes out. Take a couple of gentle pulses in goddess pose. Make sure there's space on the inside of the knee. Doesn't matter how far you go. Be really easy with yourself here. And then turn the toes forward and start to hinge forward, sliding the hands down the legs or lowering them to the block. This time the left knee bends, weight goes into the left hand. And then circle. Circle. Okay. Right knee bends. Okay, so we're going to twist to the left. Sometimes mirroring gets really confusing. You guys are all yoga teachers, so you're doing it perfectly. And then push down into the left hand, pivot to the right, and lift your hands to the lunge. Take your time going between the twist to the left, bending the right knee, and then the pivot over to the right into the lunge. Start adding the side bend over to the left at any time that the body is craving it. And if it's too much, just stay in one of those movements. Enjoy that movement. And then explore the other movement. Make sure you're breathing. You're releasing the grip. You're releasing tension. If you feel tightness, how can you move in a way that there's more freedom, more space? The nervous system can relax. We'll all meet in the lunge. Take your time getting there. Once you're there, the right hand can lower off to the right hand side on the block, and the left side can open and breathe. And then gently push into the right foot. Reach both hands up. Pause for a moment. Let the shoulders stabilize. And then hands down, blocks down inside of the right foot. And I'll turn just so you can see this. Extend the right leg, bend the right knee, and start to find a good spot for the right heel as you play with this. So the foot might walk to the right a little bit, forward. It's up to you and your hips. And then the next time you bend the right knee, pause there. Start to roll onto the outside of the right foot, letting the hip open. And then kick into the right heel, sending the hips back. Let the right leg extend. And slowly roll forward, bending the right knee. And then repeat on your own. External hip rotation. Extend through the leg, and then melt the hips forward into a lunge. And if any of those movements feels really useful and you want to pause, you're always welcome to do that. Just make sure the pausing doesn't make you just push yourself further and further, right? That's not the goal. We're waking up. More support, more dynamism, more breath, and more mantra. And the next time you come forward into the lunge, pause there. And then walk the blocks over to the left, pointing the knee to the left, and extend the right leg off to the side. So you're kneeling with the left leg and the right leg is off. You can be on the blocks, but you can also lower your hands to the floor if that's more comfortable, and let the right foot start to slide off to the side. And then walk the right foot in and feel the thighs hugging and feel that support right up the spine. Do that a couple of times, letting the hips open, but then feeling the strength of everything pulled back together. And the next time the foot walks in, walk your hands over to the left a little bit, slide the left knee forward, bring the left hip down, and twist gently to the left. Take a couple of breaths here, soften the right knee, gently sway from side to side. And then as you continue to twist to the left, let the left side of the body start to lengthen so that you soften over the right leg. Left arm can reach up and over if that feels good. And then push into the right heel to slowly rise to center. Grab the right leg and just cradle it gently. And notice as you cradle the right leg, if the spine rounds a lot, try to give yourself more space. Maybe just hold the back of the thigh. We want to keep the spine long here. And so prioritize the low back being long. It's that same action of finding parallel that we found before. And notice the feeling that you have. Hopefully it's a feeling of being able to breathe and being able to relax. And as I offer a few options, make sure you don't lose that sense of being able to relax, because there is a thing called going too far, and we don't want to do that. So play with sliding the right ankle over to the left, and just notice how the low back reacts. Notice how the breath reacts. Keep playing with that. If it's going well and the body's like, no, I love it, I want more, then you can bring the ankle to the thigh and start sliding the foot up the thigh. Notice what's happening in the right knee here. Make sure there's no sense of twisting. And then if you find a comfortable place for the foot to rest, my knee is quite a ways from the floor, you can use your block to support that knee, even if you don't usually, because we want to be as relaxed and gentle and soft as possible. And this is one of our classic postures of meditation, Padmasana. And see, as we pause here for a moment, if you can soften through the body and feel the support of the legs. This position is like a mudra for the legs that locks the energy within and helps support the spine. And repeat the mantra with your breath. And then to exit the pose, we'll gently lift our leg away from the block if we used it. Softly massage the right hip. Place the right hand over to the right hand side. Bring the sole of the left foot down and take some massages into the outside of the right hip. Just rocking some weight over to the right or anywhere that feels good. And then place the right leg down, bring the left leg down as well, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So float up to the knees. This time the left leg will extend off to the side. Hands can either come to blocks or to the floor. And allow the left leg to slide out, and then slide the left leg in, which takes a lot of strength. I have to heel toe my foot out because my mat's pretty sticky, but I am able to slide and glide my foot in as I squeeze the inner thighs together. So each time you do that, try sliding on the exhale and feel how that activates support around the spine, not just in the legs, but that musculature travels up via the pelvic floor to our deep core muscles. On your next exhale, try pushing the tongue into the roof of the mouth. See if you can feel how that connects. And then from there, start to paw the hands slightly over to the right. Shift the weight to the right hip, slowly lowering back. Point the right knee out and relax the hips down. Take a couple of twists to the right. Bend the left knee. Be soft and gentle here. The left knee can bend a lot as well if that's more comfortable. And then slowly start to lengthen through the right side of the body. The left arm can reach out anywhere that's comfortable. The right arm can float. Be soft, be easy with yourself. It doesn't matter how far you go. Just make sure there's a sense of space, a sense of lightness. And then push down into the left heel, gently floating up. Reach behind the left knee, and we'll prepare for Ardha Padmasana, half lotus. So start by cradling the left leg. Bring your awareness to the spine. If the spine is rounding, take the external rotation out of the equation and just kick the leg into the hands. If you can maintain that long spine, then you can externally rotate the thigh bone, never bringing any pressure into the knee, right? So this movement is coming from the hip. And a lot of hips don't like too much external hip rotation. So be very gentle with yourself. Is your body craving it? Is it enjoying it? Don't just assume that your body wants to do it. And then if that's going well and you can breathe and relax, then you can start playing with kicking the right foot into the left hand and gliding it over to the right and back. And that might be enough. And so keep playing with that. Option to start gliding the foot up towards the right hip crease. Most important thing, pay attention to the inside of your left knee here. Always creating the space from the hip, allowing the knee to follow. And then allow the knee to relax any amount. You can grab your block to support it. Try to find a place where you can't feel your hips or your knees because there's no tension, right? There's none of that stimuli or feedback that's saying, there's pressure, or this is too much, or I'm not sure. If your music is still playing, you can pause it. And then in whatever position you've found with the legs, notice this sense of the legs coiling in around the body, sealing the energy inside. It's just like the mudra we do with our hand, thumb to index finger. Similar idea with the legs. Notice any sense of your pelvis feeling very anchored and supported. And let your awareness scan the spine. We've played with the rib cage and the tilt of the pelvis, and notice if that natural sense of parallel is coming to you easy here or not. And then as you breathe, let the physical aspects of the body fade into the background. Repeat the mantra with the breath. And then ever so gently lean back. Start to lift the leg. Reach the left, or move the block out of the way. Reach the left hand over to the left. Bring the sole of the right foot down. And just gently start to massage the outside of the left hip or anywhere that feels good. Or maybe the left leg doesn't want to be in this position anymore, and that's totally fine. Can go back into our Parvritajana Shirshasana from before. Just giving yourself a moment to explore and soften. And then we'll extend the legs out. Turn to your right, and we'll have a little bit of time to release the body fully, and then we'll come up for meditation, and we'll just see what happens in meditation when we've had the opportunity to leave our body behind. If you enjoyed the props from the beginning of class, you are welcome to use the blanket over the belly to support the arms, just like you did before. And the other blanket can go underneath the knees, which is a really nice way to support the low back and the spine. Feel free to take a sip of water, put on some socks or a sweater, dim the lights if you're in a time zone where that makes sense. And we started in a position similar to this, and you might have found it easy to relax, or depending on the rest of your day, maybe there was a big shift to going from your day into laying on your back. And now notice if there's less resistance now. If the body feels ready to relax, if the mind feels ready to release, and if the breath feels any closer than it did at the beginning of class. And we'll rest here for several minutes, just preparing for the goal of yoga, which is our meditation practice. Namah Shivaya. Connect the mantra to each breath. Imagine that your rest has created a spaciousness that you can fill with your mantra as you reawaken and re-energize. As the mantra reaches the feet and the legs and the fingertips and the hands, start to make gentle movements. And feel that possibility that the spiritual aspect of yourself can unite with the physical. They don't have to be separate. They're not separate. Take your time, but continue to breathe and repeat the mantra and find your way eventually up to a comfortable seated position. And keep breathing. Keep the body soft. And as you find your seat, feel free to link the thumb and index finger, and though we're not in half lotus, you can notice that same inward curling of the legs that happens in your meditation seat. And find a single point to gaze upon or close the eyes. Notice the proximity of your breath and your ability to repeat the mantra fully without distraction. And let the body fade into the background. And notice through working with the nervous system, if you even feel extra space in between yourself and your thoughts. And Babaji describes the state that's available when we get beyond our body, and he says it's very light and expansive and blissful. And so as we sit and soften and repeat mantra, give yourself the opportunity to release anything that feels tight or heavy. And see if you can connect with that expansive inner reality that is always available to the yogi. Thank you so much for practicing. Namaste. Great to see you all. Hope that you're feeling awesome. Have a wonderful week and see you soon. Aloha. Way to go, Bob. You did it. Oh, Mom, you're muted. You can unmute and say hi to Bob if you want to.
I didn't put the Bob and shirt Bob together. Hi, Bob. How are you? Been a long time. When I was so, I was so into my yoga, I didn't see who you were.
That's good, Mom. You're supposed to be only on your own yoga mat, so you did a good.
No, just it, although it was funny, I was thinking during yoga, I was thinking about the ashram, and I was thinking about Bob and Shirley. It was, I really loved them.
Well, yeah.
I realized you were right there.
Then
Okay. Well, good to see you. Say hi to Shirley for me. Okay. Bye.
bye, Mom.
Bye, bye. Love you.
Love you. How'd it go, Bob? Is your body Yeah, good. Well, yeah, you made it through the whole thing, so that's a good sign because you were allowed to leave at any time. So, way to go. Thanks for coming, Bob. Have a good night. See you soon in K class. Bye. Bye.